Before we begin, I'd like you to know that this content is for education and facilitating self-empowerment. However, this platform exists to cultivate an addictive and abusive codependent relationship with a vapid, materialist pop culture while data scraping algorithms sync your personal metadata onto pattern maps used to anticipate then invert emergent trends in our collective evolution of consciousness in an effort to compromise our ongoing mass awakening.
Hey. Put your hands, Jason. Drop to your knees. Drop to your knees.
These men, having turned the entire inhabited world upside down, have arrived here as well, whom Jason has welcomed, and all these men act in defiance of the decrees of Caesar, saying that Jesus is another king. If myth is truth, streamlined through the filter of regional culture, we can consider intertestamental Jewish wisdom literature, like the Sophia of Solomon or the Sophia of Yeshua ben Sirach, the canon of Greek mythology, and the Christian scriptures as generically, quote, Greek mythology, end quote, in that they're all written in Greek and have attributes of or are mythology. Streamlined truth, not necessarily something that isn't true. There's some misconceptions about what myth is. I want to talk about a certain myth and then some others. We're going to talk about Jason in the Golden Rag and my own learning to smile and love the Josh. Joshua is the name of Jesus, by the way. A great hero of Greek mythology is Jason of Thessalonica, a great-grandson to Hermes and husband of Medea, who along with the Argonauts goes on a great quest to find the Golden Fleece in the epic Argonautica from Apollonius, dating about 300 BC. So it's coming from that intertestamental Jewish period. Jason had one foot in one world and one in another. He was the rightful prince of Iolcus, and he was born in the middle of an interfamilial war for the throne. He was raised by the centaur Chiron, and then returned to his hometown to reclaim the throne, and Peleus, fearing that his troubled throne might be challenged, consulted an oracle who warned him to beware of a man wearing only one sandal. So the oracle warns him of the one sandal. Many years later, Peleus was holding games in honor of Poseidon when the grown Jason arrived in Iolcus, having lost one of his sandals in the river Anoros, or the Wintry River, while helping an old woman that was secretly Hera, Zeus's wife. So Hera's gratitude was immense. She was moved by Jason's chivalry and blessed him because she knew what Peleus had planned. When Jason entered Iolcus, present-day Volos, he was announced as a man wearing only one sandal. Jason, aware that he was the rightful king, so informed Peleus, who replied, "To take my throne, which you shall, you must go find the Golden Fleece." Jason readily accepted the offer, took him up on it. He went and got it too. Scandalon is the Greek word, a noun for stumbling block. It's where we get the word in English, scandal. Jason is surrounded by white stone here. That's interesting. In the famous fresco of Jason in Pompeii, we see his arrival wearing the one sandal, covered or surrounded by white stone. There's some interesting symbolism here, and I want to take a closer look at that, so let's do that right now. In this famous image of Jason arriving in Iolcus, we see an aide to the king holding a bull by the crown. And on this fresco, there's some interesting symbolism here. We see the bull has a faded flank and left hoof. So the left side and the behind are faded out, and we have a much more color saturated and faded in or in detail or represented part of the bull on the right side. So the bull is staring Jason down. He's about to take the charge. They know who he is, given the fact that he's showing up, testing the throne, and he's only wearing one sandal. So The Man with One Red Shoe is a film with Tom Hanks. I'm curious how that maps onto this, but that might be material we'll get into in another video. So we've got the bull staring down Jason. So Jason's about to get charged by the bull. There's some interesting death in the afternoon symbolism here, the bullfighting symbol. Jason's going to take the charge from the raging bull, which is an interesting symbol here. So a couple years ago, I was arrested for a violent crime that never happened. And it would take me 2 years before I could prove that and get it rectified in court. In the meantime, I was put through a type of living hell after being charged by this raging bull after kicking one of my sneakers at the wall. Later, I would see symbolism that mapped onto a different Jason.
Coming to work here and being in these open areas, you're in communication with the inmates. It's direct supervision, so that lessens the stress level of the staff and of the inmates as well, to be able to easily communicate with each other. Okay, this is our new women's pod, where you see we have the carpeting, the wooden doors, we have porcelain sinks and toilets in their cells. We make it more home-like.
Oh, stop hitting my face against the floor, please! Stop doing this! I can't.
So I was arrested for a crime that didn't happen. It would take me 2 years to prove that, and in the meantime, while at the jail for a few days, I was beaten so bad I couldn't eat, and I still have to get some surgery to get some things fixed up in my head and face. Nonetheless, I was in a room of white stone after getting charged by a bull wearing one red sandal, so to speak, symbolically, and my name's Jason, and I feel like I'm doing the Lord's work in the devil's playground. Now, I live in Lafayette, Colorado, a city which names many of its streets after Greek mythological characters, including like Chiron Ave, and the local high school team is the Centaurs, so you can see where I'm living. It's a bit of an inversion of where I could be, say, in another book.
Okay, let's see the rock marshal. He has cooperated eventually. All right. So, then I can get you the medical. But that bruiser doesn't look like it happened last time.
The nurse just said it didn't look like I got injured last night there at the jail because she read a report from the officer that beat me, who just happened to be the guy in charge, who said I came in like that. And all of these pieces of paperwork and evidence are one of the reasons why Broomfield does not want to go to federal lawsuit trial and is looking to offer a settlement, and hopefully we'll have that negotiated and settled in the not too distant future. So I was engaging in civil disobedience and not participating in the probation after being released from jail with a busted face. And on March 3rd, 2021, my home was raided by the Broomfield police, who had absolutely no warrant or right or lawful reason to enter my home, and they did so violently.
How are you doing this?
Jason, lift your hands!
Okay.
Your hands, Jason! Drop to your knees! Drop to your knees! Hands behind your head.
You got it.
Hands behind your head.
How are you doing this?
Jason, lift your hands!
Okay.
Drop to your knees! Hands behind your head.
You got it.
Hands behind your head.
How many police were coming through my door there? It looked like a clown car. A Mexican clown car full of cops. Jason kind of looks like me a little bit too. Well, he's maybe a little more handsome there in that image. I need to get a haircut and get a tan. But yeah, you know, Jay and I could be related there. Speaking of resemblances, I think the more important one here is his symbolism that maps onto being swallowed by the fish. Looks like Jason is being entirely swallowed by the fish. An upside-down Pope's mitre hat as well. So he's the inverted king. He's the king from another world that came into this Greek mythology. So maybe he belongs in some other Greek books. And there's Greek symbolism here that points back to Genesis. We got the trampling of the toes, the laced serpent bruising the heel. Are we looking at the other Jason of Thessalonica? Because there's two sides to the coin. Did Jason die in one world and get transferred to Acts 17? Or the other way around, it looks like he went down on the Argonautica from the book of Acts.
But the Jews were jealous, and taking some wicked men of the rabble, they formed a mob, set the city in an uproar, and attacked the house of Jason, seeking to bring them out to the crowd. And when they could not find them, they dragged Jason and some of the brothers before the city authorities, shouting, "These men who have turned the world upside down have come here also, and Jason has received them, and they are all acting against the decrees of Caesar, saying that there is another king, Jesus." And the people and the city authorities were disturbed when they heard these things. And when they had taken money as security from Jason and the rest, they let them go.
Let's talk about transverse. Across the verse waves, across the universe, transverse waves in the upside down world, and the reason why things are getting lost in translation. Things are on earth as they are in heaven, but mirrored like that image of Narcissus I spoke of in 2017 and in 2018 of an event, a reoccurring event that was coming into this world. I've been speaking about this for quite some time. You can see it in my older videos. Before the COVID phenomenon took over the world, I was telling people that there was a bad breath or spirit, a type of event that would ripple through the world in about 3 years' time. So in 2017 to 18, I was talking explicitly about this so-called event that was going to disrupt this world and represent the arrival of a spirit from an outside agency, let's say. And I didn't have too many details, but I had plenty of esoteric puzzle pieces pointing towards something big happening, and it did. And I also created esoterically themed visual art during that period that also maps onto the COVID phenomenon and symbolism, and I'm going to continue to unpack that. But let's hear from Al Gore about chemtrails.
Please welcome Vice President Al Gore. And what are you... Well, first of all, let me ask you this question, because there's a rumor, I don't know if this is true or not, that some scientists are trying to figure out a way to block the sun to try to slow down global warming.
Yeah, it's a measure of the feeling of desperation that some of them feel.
Are they really thinking they could do that?
Well, some of them are seriously proposing, and I think it's completely nuts.
Yeah.
You put another kind of pollution, sulfur dioxide, up to orbit, cover the atmosphere, the sky won't be really blue in the way it is now anymore. I won't be really blue in the way it is now anymore.
Now consider this excerpt from the new book, The Matter with Things, by Ian McGilchrist.
I believe that nowadays we live no longer in the presence of the world, but rather in a representation of it. The significance of that is that the left hemisphere's task is to represent what first presences to the right hemisphere. This representation has all the qualities of a virtual image. An infinitely thin, immobile, fragment of a vast, seamless, living, ever-flowing whole. From a standpoint within the representation, everything is reversed. Instead of seeing what is truly present as primary, and the representation as a necessarily diminished derivative of it, we see reality as merely a special case of our representation, one in which something is added in to animate it. In this, it is like a cine film that consists of countless static slices requiring a projector to bring it back into what at least looks to us like a living flow. On the contrary, however, reality is not an animated version of our representation of it, but our representation a devitalized version of reality. It is the representation that is a special, wholly atypical and imaginary case of what is truly present, as the film strip is of life. The representation is simply what one might call the limit case of what is real. Stepping out of this world picture and into the world, stepping out of suspended animation and back into life, will involve inverting many of our perhaps cherished assumptions.
So what we have here is symbolism that the Earth as God-bodied map is experiencing a cultural climate change, and part of it has to do with the toxification and the altering of the consciousness of a spirit of the age. And the chemtrails represent something like a caffeinated consciousness in the atmosphere, or a cocaine-addicted consciousness. We also have the lost in translation. That is, Batman is not vengeance. He is saying, I am gents. We have a lot of this going on in the collective subconscious or unconscious created or co-created symbolism. Now let's take a look at the one-eye symbolism decoded, and I'll give you an idea of how we're being repeatedly told that we're in an interim world. Many people have pointed out the esoteric symbolism that celebrities display, involved in covering up the eye, sometimes holding a pinched index finger and thumb around the eye like a hole, some kind of rabbit hole. There's been a lot of speculation about it, but mostly people just collect images of celebrities like Bono here with the one-eye symbolism. Are you ready? Are you ready to have this finally decoded? Are you ready, Chief? So we're going to take a look at, well, some concepts from, say, unified code theory and the ways in which symbolism is hidden in plain sight. So we've got one eye. It's very often the left eye. So one eye left, or I still have eyes left, or I still have eyes, one left, which is I Sheol. I am Sheol. I am the Sheol. Christ became for us Sophia, it says in Corinthians 1:30. The fall of Sophia might have been a voluntary drop, which is what Batman symbolically does when he takes one of his wings and cuts a lightning cable and falls into a stadium. In the new Batman movie, he plays a fallen angel who's misunderstood, and he learns that vengeance is not the key motivating factor here, because trying to set the record straight for Batman involves inspiring people that weaponize his message. So we can see clearly symbols and patterns here that map onto a kind of fallen angel, Lucifer, misunderstood character. And Sheol itself is spelt with pictographic icons in English that can be rearranged to say he rose. Heroes. He rose, the sun sets and the sun also rises. Set is the name of the devil character in Egyptian mythology as well. So, lots of drama, lots of symbolism, confusing things, but things are looking good. And if my life is a myth that maps onto a larger myth, good news for me is good news for all of us if that maps onto the bigger fractals. So my case was officially terminated, and this is a petition and order to terminate the terms of my probation and the charge of criminal mischief. That's when the cops kicked my door down. They tried giving me a felony, then they reduced it to a misdemeanor. I said, oh no, we're going in front of the judge. Sharon Holbrook of the district court in Broomfield she was fair and just, and that's why I won. So now I'm waiting for a lawsuit settlement that's, it's not retirement money. I'm not going to go buy a house and new car and kick my feet up, but I'm going to set up a studio to go full time. This is Symbols, Patterns, and Gnosis with Jason Bickford. That's me. I produce this channel. For YouTube, I have other creative outlets. This is a non-monetized page, and I am not sponsored, nor do I have any affiliate links from which I benefit from. I am crowdfunded through Patreon. At Patreon, I post essays, exclusive content, lots of downloadable goodies. If you get in there now for as little as $3 a month, even less if you take advantage of the annual discount, you can access previews, art sales, downloadable books, PDFs. You'll see how my mind works. You can get involved in the conversations going on there, meet some interesting and smart people, or you can message me privately. I get back to everybody that reaches out to me there. Again, that's just $3 a month for the lowest tier. You can contribute more if you're in a position to do so. You can also get t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, some downloadable goodies, and posters over at gnosticonpress.com, my Teespring store. I also have an Etsy.com channel under the name of the Gnostic Reclamation, and you can search me, Jason Bickford, by name there as well. And I have fine art prints on wood. I'm going to be updating that shortly, and we will be going into printed material this year in the not too distant future. So that's my commercial, so please support me. I'm an independent artist, and I'm non-mainstream. There isn't really any professional way I can work for someone else in media and express the things that I want to express, because I would be forever canceled and forever fired. So support me if you resonate with my content and want to help me continue to grow this channel and improve the quality of this material. So I'll be trying new formats, and in the not too distant future I'll be updating some gear. And that's courtesy of the city of Broomfield and the lawsuit settlement they'll be offering me in the not too distant future. And I'll do an upload video on that, so good things to come. So thanks for supporting the channel, even if it's just hitting the like to help the algorithm spread my video and increase the possibility that this will be recommended to someone else. So thanks for that.
Could you explain in terms that our viewers at home will understand how, for instance, a person or persons could travel from...
Yes, man. What were your thoughts?
It's a secret.
Do not get in this lawn chair until you come down here.
Clearly control the media and the banks. Investment banks, not the commercial ones, but the point is, they undermine traditional life and they deracinate society. Deracinate. Tear out the roots.
Come to the Honeycomb Hideout.
I'm Big Betty the Blind Bomber, and I want a big cereal.
Honeycomb's big, yeah. It's not small, no. Honeycomb's got a big bite. Big taste in a big bite.
Right. A good breakfast featuring post-honeycomb cereal gives you a
big bite.
It tastes right.
Honeycomb bite. It tastes right.